Good evening, good evening. Happy Tuesday, everyone. My favorite day of the week. Hope you are all feeling great and your week has started off with a lot of energy. After today, it should be an amazing, amazing day. Before we get into today's topic, I just want to remind us of what we discussed the last time we were here. Last week, I was joined by co host Gigi Germain. She was on screen and she gave us a lot of energy and love and affection. She helped me co-host the Express Yourself edition, which is always a phenomenal edition because our audience, all of you, were able to be on the screen and you guys lead the show. You give us your topics and we run with it. Last week we spoke with Carmen Gonzalez, who has her own book out of poetry that has just spoke volumes to everyone who has purchased this book. This book has talked about her past trauma, life that she's lived throughout the years with her children, her relationship in the past, and now knowing and truly feeling love. It's a great book. It's on Amazon. If you want to check her out, look at our previous show from last Tuesday so that you can purchase that book from Amazon. Today is a very good day. Before we bring and announce our guest, I just want to do, as always, remind you folks while we are here. If you or anyone that you love or someone that you know, a family member, a friend, a foe, anyone is dealing with domestic violence and you're concerned and you need somewhere to reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. The number is scrolling across the screen if you did not get it. You also can contact us at any of our social media as long as you send me some love when you do. Just kidding. You can reach us at all of our social media as well as our website at www.loveshouldnothurt.com. We will respond to you on the other end, this bright face. I apologize in advance, folks. I am dealing with some serious allergies today. So if I stop for a moment to sneeze, disculpa. We're live. These things happen, but I just want to warn you in advance. So we're going to bring on our amazing guest. But before we bring her on, she's been on and she's phenomenal. We love to have Amanda on with us because she gives us such an amazing therapeutic view. We're going to talk about tonight generational trauma and how we are breaking the cycle. Before we do that, let's play this video very quickly so you can get a small explanation of what generational trauma is. Hello. Well, we're back. That's just a small explanation of what generational trauma is. And I think that a lot of us have dealt with it without even knowing. So let's bring on our Fierra Dominicana. Like I say, people, she got credentials, licensed professional counselor, Amanda Figueroa. Welcome to our show. Hey, boo.
Hi. Hey everyone watching.
Woohoo. How you feeling tonight, babe?
I'm feeling good. I think we all got good news today, and it's Tuesday, so why not? And this topic I think is one that I don't know, I'm really excited. I don't know why, but I feel good about today. I'm gonna stick with that.
That's right. Good. You're matching the energy that I normally have. Today I'm going to try my best to stay on top of it, but the allergies, I'm sure you hear the congestion, but we're going to keep going. We're motivated and we're going to get through tonight. Generational trauma is something that I believe that not too many people are even aware of because not a lot of people believe that it's true. Some people say, oh, because my mama dealt with it or my daddy dealt with it, has nothing to do with what I'm dealing with. So listen, who better than you to be on this show tonight and discuss this topic? Because like I said, Mabu got credentials.
Yes. And I mean, and I always say, I have credentials and I been in this field for a minute, but that doesn't mean I know it all. But I can speak on things on a very educational level as well as like a therapeutic level. So that's what I'm here for today. So I'm not sitting here saying I know everything there is to know about generational trauma. I'm just here like, let's have a conversation. Your audience tends to have really good questions, really good comments. And I think it's a topic that we don't speak about enough.
Absolutely. I think trauma, and one of the very first shows that you joined me on, we spoke about trauma. And I think one of the questions that I asked you was, could someone's past trauma affect them right now? So I think that everything always coincides, especially when you're on. Generational trauma, if people don't understand what that means, is exactly what I stated. Your parents may have dealt with some form of, whether it's domestic violence, sexual abuse, or racism, whatever the case may be. And then it's passed down to the next person and the next person. I watched a few videos today and I read a few articles trying to just always research and figure things out. And one of the videos that I watched was, the topic was, how do I deal with generational trauma, not knowing that I even have suffered this? And I think that that's all of us, you know, we have no idea. And I think that even with domestic violence and the things that I've dealt with personally, I've had moments where I'm just like, I feel like my mom dealt with this too. And I feel like I'm living in some of the same things that she dealt with. So I think that it's just something that all of us, at some point, it all encompasses, you know, what we all have dealt with in our past.
Yeah. And one piece that most articles don't talk about is that you don't have to have experiences directly, right? So I was having this conversation today with a friend, and we were just having a everyday girlfriend conversation. And she shared something with me that her mother told her that happened to her when she was 2 years old. And she's like, something traumatic. And she's like, why are you telling me this now? And you never told me before. Right. And her mom said, because I was traumatized by the experience. I thought you were, you know, she thought that she would lose her daughter when she was 2 years old due to like an illness or something. So she kind of like did not want to deal with it. But then she said to me, it made so much sense why she behaved the way she behaved and the way she interacted with me. And even the way I interact with my daughter. Never did I know where it was coming from. So it kind of hits what you were just saying. Like, it's not that you know clearly, like my mother went through this, or my father went through this, or my grandmother went through this. And I even think that April, when we spoke with her and we interviewed her, shared some of that, right? Where she didn't know about the traumas her both parents separately went through. Right. But now writing her book and talking to them, it's like, oh, and by the way, this happened to me. And this, which definitely plays a part in how they parented her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at things, I think it's always a matter of looking back and thinking, wow, it's like that light bulb moment for everyone, you know, because raising my daughter, I've done things. It's just like that. Like, we're talking about trauma, but let's just talk about experiences in general. Like, I raised my daughter and I do certain things. And for me, I'm a mother, and this is how I became a mother, and this is how I learned to do it. But then I'll do things and she'll be like, you did that just the way Lala did. Lala's my mother. And they'll say, you did the same thing that Lala did. And I'm like, we do. Like, we do things with, like, subconsciously, we don't even realize that we're like repeating things from then. And even moments she's unaware of because she wasn't there. She wasn't alive, you know, and I think of things that I do and I'm like, wow, my mom did the same thing to me and I'm doing the same thing I did to her. And not necessarily bad, just in general, you know, things that we've experienced from our past kind of follow us to the future. So trauma is something that, unfortunately, is just like those things. They follow us to the future.
Correct. And what you and I mean, there's a saying in Spanish. I'm horrible with saying, so for all my Latinos, when I butcher this, don't kill me. Pero lo que se hereda no se niega, or something like that. You know what I mean? Or, you know, I know I butchered it for a fact. But basically, like, what you inherit, you can't deny it. And there's parts of us that we don't even realize that it's part of our heritage and our history and our upbringing that we don't even, I can't pinpoint where that came from. I can't pinpoint it, but that doesn't mean that it isn't part of me. Actually, earlier today, I was like, oh my God, I went like this. And my aunt said, what happened? I said, I just sounded like my mom. Like, I literally said the words and I heard her in my head, you know, and it wasn't consciously. It was like you said, my subconscious. It was just, I reacted and I sounded like her.
Right. Absolutely. I think I do that on a daily basis. Constantly like her. So when we talk about generational trauma, do you think, and this is just always as a matter of opinion, folks, we always speak in matter of opinion. We are not experts in these topics. We are speaking as a matter of opinion. Amanda being in the field that she's in and working mostly with mental health. Do you think that generational trauma is something that can be avoided?
I wouldn't use the word avoided. I think we can put a break to it. Like we can stop the cycle. So I mean, and like any cycle, right? Like if you're, I always use weights because it's something I can relate with. But like if you are an overeater and you're gaining a lot of weight, the only way to stop that cycle is to not overeat. So I'll use myself. It's the best example I can have. I'm an emotional eater. I can be great, but if I'm not in a good mood, I want to eat things that I normally don't eat. Things I don't normally keep in my house, chocolate and candy and Mr. Softy. I hear the song coming down the street and I'm running after the truck. And I don't like ice cream like that. I can have ice cream on an off day, but I'm an emotional eater. So I know, and I'm aware of that. So when I'm not having a good day, I think to myself and I send messages to myself for like, today, don't do things to your body that you normally don't do because it's not healthy. So I have to make smart choices. So I don't know if I would say, I forgot the word you just said, but I think we could definitely avoid it. I don't think I can avoid it, particularly if I don't know that it's happening. So that's what we just said, right? Like some things we just subconsciously do. I don't think we can avoid it, but if we are aware of it, I think we can try to intervene and then put things in place to prevent it from continuing and from us being the perpetrators of said cycle.
Right. That's a good way to put it. Always schooling me. No, I'm joking. So, and a lot of the videos that I watched today, surprisingly, a few of them did mention domestic violence, but one of the bigger ones was like racism, and like alcoholism and things like that. And I was like, wow, that wasn't what I was looking for, but they were like the major ones that came out. So I guess the question that was asked to me, actually, because I told someone we were talking about this today, someone said, what types of trauma can be passed down or are more significant than other traumas?
I think so. I always say, right, that the ones that are more significant are the ones that someone was really interested in and did research papers on, and then you can Google and find them. So if like a group of people were interested in domestic violence, then they would write and do research and all that stuff. However, what we do know, as you've said it a million times on your show and other folks on your show, domestic violence is something that tends to be hidden for so long that it's not something that's talked about a lot. Just like abuse of any kind, when it's the male as the victim or the survivor, is not something that's talked about a lot. So if you Google any like male violence or male victims of violence, you might find like gun violence, or you might find that stuff, but you're not going to find like a lot of clear in front of you articles about men who were in domestic violence relationship. So I think that usually generational trauma is associated with like sexual traumas as well. I mean, just like you labeled it, any abuse in regards to child abuse, because those things tend to believe that like if my father abused me, then I'm going to abuse someone else, and then that person, and then the cycle, because abuse is learned, right? That is what most research says, is that abuse is learned. A child doesn't grow up and say, I want to be an abuser, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or verbal. It's something that they learned. And because they learned it and no one taught them something different, then they're going to keep doing it and then continue to perpetrate that way. So I don't want to say that there's a specific one. I just think that it depends on who and what you're looking for, and then you're going to find it based. But generational trauma is trauma across the board, from sexual assault to sexual trauma, all the way to physical, mental, and verbal abuse. It can be generational.
Right. I think too, they also asked, so say there's 3 sisters. Okay, I'm going to use my family, right?
Okay.
And it's just as an example. So I lived with, it was 3 of us, 3 sisters in one household. So generational trauma, everybody, the question, we were having a discussion about it because they said, how'd you come up with this topic? I'm like, Amanda, she's amazing. So we were talking about it, and it was like, okay, so would we all go through that trauma? Like, would we all get it? So like, I'm in a home with 3 sisters, it's 3 of us, and all of us have dealt with some form of abuse. Will all of us experience this trauma? And that's the question that was posed today. A lot of questions for me that were not answered, because I said, I'm going to ask Amanda when we're on the show. More so because I think if you give the different types of abuse, like the domestic abuse and the sexual abuse. I was a child that was sexually abused when I was younger. but that's never something that I ever would pass down. Like that's not something that
Mhm.
me and my sisters would ever pass down. It's not something.
Mhm.
Um, Domestic violence, though, thinking of other situations like dealing with my abuser and watching his children sit in the room and continue to play video games like it's no big deal while I'm being beat up right behind them. And then his kids getting older, and it's like, okay, are they now all of them going to be abusive with the women that they're with because it was no big deal when it was going on. They were sitting there listening and watching, and it was like, it's just another day. So
Yeah.
I guess that was
So it's
long-winded.
a yeah, no, but I think there's multiple questions in one. So let's deal with the one that first comes to mind. So the first thing that I can remember that you just asked me was about the three sisters, right? So three sisters grow up in a household. They all experience abuse. So let's incorporate perception, right? Age, maturity. There's a lot of factors that play into how they view that. I can ask three sisters to draw me a picture of their home and get three different pictures,
Right.
right? So I'm going to use just like, theoretical things. Like, for example, the older sister might draw herself, taking care of the younger siblings, and the parents are outside of the home. The middle sister might draw herself with her older sisters, and mom and dad in the home. And the little one might draw herself just with mom and dad because she's the only one that matters in her world and her parents. Do you see what I'm saying? So perception is number one, very important. And then the age at which they experience this abuse, could they interpret what was happening, or could they understand what was going on? So I always use this example, and I think I used it before in the show. So I'll just repeat it because it's my favorite one. You and I, God no protege, are in a car accident. We're both in the back seat. We're not a driver. We're passengers in the back seat. I'm on the right side. You're on the left side. You on the left side, the car crashes on my side. I lose a leg. I go to therapy, physical therapy, and other therapies because I'm physically affected. You are on the left side, and you experience me get crushed, but you are physically okay, right? You can now not get in a car. There is nobody that can put you in a vehicle. You are that traumatized that you cannot get in a vehicle. I, however, had to get in a vehicle every day to go to my physical therapy, to go get treatment, to go all that stuff. So my trauma is trauma of losing my limb, trauma of learning how to re-walk, trauma of like all these things, but I'm not afraid of a car because I had to experience, we call that exposure work, right? Whether it was purposeful or not, I had to get into a vehicle and go to my destination. So I had to work through that trauma that I might have had of being afraid of being in the car. Now, I might never want to sit on the right side. I might only want to sit on the left side because in my head, Christina was good. And you're like, ain't nobody putting me in a car. You go home, you stay home, you don't leave, you enter a depression. Like, I mean, it could be a cycle. Or you could be non-phased. You could have went to treatment, you could have like figured it out, you could have gotten checked, feel good, and slowly be able to get in a car again. So it's just perception is really important to understand, because most people think like, well, Amanda should be the one that's a mess because she lost a part of her body in this accident. But that doesn't mean that mentally I was affected like you were affected. Does that make sense?
It makes lots of sense.
Okay, so it's the same thing with the trauma in the home. Like, it really depends on how we engaged with what we saw and how we experienced what we saw. So the kids, so bring it back to your situation, and the kids in the room, how many times did they see their father go through that with other partners? And this is better, let's say in their mind, not the better, but, oh, he's not killing her or almost killing her. They're just in an argument because it's their norm. Right? And for other kids, it might be very alarming. Let's say a kid was visiting a neighbor's kid would be like, I want to go to my home. I want to go to my mommy, because this is very unnerving to hear someone put their hands and physically harm someone else when my mommy tells me I'm not supposed to hit anyone.
Right.
Does that kind of answer that? Okay. And then you said something else, and I'm so sorry, but I got into my whole. It'll come to me.
Well, it was just pretty much a matter of how many would be affected. So say there's 10 brothers and sisters, and would we all deal with that trauma? And the last thing I said was how myself in my own situation when I was being abused, how I was kind of in awe how my abuser's children could sit in the same room as he was beating me badly and just keep playing their video games like it was just not happening. And just in my mind wondering what their future is like now. Like, are they people who are abusing women as well? Or for the female, like the daughter, is she accepting abuse because this is something that she's seen throughout the years forever?
So if, let's say, she experienced that with no intervention, there's a higher possibility that she will be in an abusive relationship. And for the boys, there's a higher possibility that maybe they will abuse, right? Because it's normal. Like, this is how my dad put his ladies in check. This is how I'm going to put my ladies in check, because it clearly worked, right? 1 + 1 = 2 to them, even though 1 is actually a 7. So 7 + 1 = 8. It makes no sense if you don't see it for what it is. Does that make sense? Like, if you don't see it for what it is, then you're not going to be able to identify it and hence then react to it in a different way or understand what's healthy versus unhealthy. Because healthy to them, let's not even call it healthy. Normal to them was when you had a disagreement with someone, you put your hands on them. I'm going to make it non-aggressive. Who's your favorite salsa artist, if I could put you on the spot like that? Yeah, I know that was hard, right?
Yeah, that was.
So sorry. Okay, Marc Anthony just had a concert. Listen, Marc Anthony just had a concert. Let's do easy. Marc Anthony has had a concert. And if you were driving, you're driving, and Marc Anthony's comes on, can you drive without reacting?
No, I sing every song.
Okay. If you don't react, what will your daughter say?
She'd be surprised.
Right? She would be very surprised. So that is what intervention looks like, right? So if your daughter knows my mom loves this song, and you know what I mean? No matter where she's at in the world, the song comes on. Oh my God, mommy, your song is playing or whatever. Or she might sing it or she might tell a story. Like, let me tell you about my mom, how crazy she gets when the song gets on. Oh my God. I'll be scared. Like, she's going to crash.
That's what she always says.
See, perfect. So, but then you don't react instinctively.
What's wrong with you?
Like what's wrong? Like, what's going on? So intervention looks like that. And I think that's the easiest way for me to explain it. Intervention is you interact with something differently than you normally do. And hence you start a new pattern or new journey. And hence the cycle changes. I'm just trying to bring everything back to what we're talking about. You see what I'm saying? So now put aggression or put trauma into it. If I'm used to, let's say I'm the aggressor and I'm used to dealing with everything physically or verbally. And the only way I know how to speak my mind is by like spewing words out at people. You're going to get used to that. And what's going to change is what's going to cause is that you might be intimidated by me. You might not really want to interact with me. You might be like, I don't even want to be around Amanda. She's too much. She's always angry. But if I change that and I engage with you with kindness and I engage with you, one, you're going to feel like, what's she smoking? You know what I mean? Or you're going to be like, I've noticed a change in her, what's going on? And potentially our relationship could change. Because I do believe in reconciliation if I can own my behavior, if I can own my actions and take accountability for them and not engage in them again.
Good way to answer that for me. a lot of the conversation today was, well, you guys have this topic today, so I have so many questions. And then it was, can this happen? Will they do this? Is it a possibility that it'll continue? And I think for me, it's hard to answer that because I know personally speaking through folks that generational trauma is something that they're unaware of. So you can't say, oh yeah, esto pasó en la casa de ella, and that's why she acts that way too. No, because people don't see it that way. They don't even realize, wow, I'm mimicking or reliving the same lifestyle, the same actions, the same reactions of what others prior to me have dealt with. And that's something that I worry about. And that's why I guess with this platform, I've tried to make such kind of like a positive outlook for my daughter, because these are things that I don't want to be generational. There are parts of, I don't want my family or anybody watching to be offended, but there's parts of life growing up of things that I saw with my mother that oftentimes throughout my life up until now, where I'm at a different place, where I thought I'm repeating all of the same things that she did. You know, that there's things that I've done. And now with having my daughter, and she's almost 14, she's going into that stage, and now she's going to high school. I think of myself at her age, and I think of what I went through as a kid and how I talked to myself and didn't like myself. And I'm like, oh, I want to break all of that. Like, I want her to be totally opposite of me. So I have to be more, cognizant of the things that I say in front of her and how I see myself and the things that I allow myself to tolerate, because I don't want her to then move on and she's in an abusive relationship and she's hating who she is. And then it just continues. Then she has a kid and that kid's, and it's the same thing. And I think that's a part of life that not all of us, like I said, that word, we need to be cognizant. I don't think a lot of people are. Some people don't realize that, they continue to live life the same way forever. And they say, that's just how I am. You deal with it. But then it's not, at some point you need to change those ways because you have a person watching you, have a little one watching you. And those ways that to you are no big deal, even though they're obnoxious and terrible, to you, it's, oh, I'll deal with it, or you deal with it because that's just who I am. Now we're putting that onto the kid that's watching you. And then when they get older, they're going to be obnoxious and nasty and unhappy. And it's like, well, that's just how we are. Get over it. No, life could have been different. So since we're saying that and we're at the 26 mark, we're almost at the 30 mark. For the next remainder of the half an hour, I want us to talk about how we break that cycle, how we break it in our families, our kids, and just different people. So we're almost at the half mark. So since we're already there, because I don't want to jump into the topic and we didn't get to the half mark yet, I'll do as we normally do at the 30 mark since we're 3 minutes away now. Remind folks that we are here today to speak about domestic violence, and that is our mission at Love Shouldn't Hurt. If you feel as though someone that you love, someone that you're around is dealing with any form of domestic violence, whether it's yourself, your family member, a friend, a foe, anyone, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Contact us at our website, loveshouldnothurt.com, or any of our social media platforms. So before we get into the second half of our discussion of generational trauma, we're going to break into the following part of that, which is breaking the cycle. But before we do, a big announcement that I think we've already talked about, but just a reminder to folks who are watching and may not know. We put together almost 2.5 years ago a documentary of 3 women who were survivors and now sobrevivientes, heroes. They've lived through it, and now they are living great and amazing lives, where those same 3 women are hitting the pavement again and getting behind that camera. But this time we're going to interview all of you. We are on to our documentary part 2. We've done so much in the past 2.5 years. We want to share that journey with you, but we also want to give the opportunity to those women and men who are out there who want to be a part of what we are doing and want to touch the next 100 few people, because our documentary was so amazing and able to touch so many women that look at where we are 2.5 years later. One small video became such a big deal. So we want to show this video and remind you guys of what our day was like the day that we put that documentary together.
I need to have a conversation that everybody may not want to hear, but it's too close to home to keep moving on like we don't see the problem here. Right now as you're listening, there's a woman hiding bruises from her friends. But love doesn't hurt, and I know what you're worth. Why does this keep happening? How can you look in his eyes, believe in all those lies, like it happened once and it'll never happen again? And though you try to hide, I see the anguish inside. So because I love you, I need you to hear me say that I know love doesn't hurt.
That is just a snippet of what our day looked like. Besides those pictures, videos, posing and speaking, it was such an emotional day. We were able to share our stories. And for people like myself, Jackie and Zulma, that was the first time that we were that open and we shared such a huge part of our past. So we welcome anyone who is interested in sharing their story. Inbox us, send us a message. We want to share your story for our second documentary. So Amanda, we're going into the second half of tonight. How do we break these cycles? How do we stop these generational traumas?
So I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it starts with self. You can't fix other people. We can't change other people. We can only change and work on ourselves. So it has to start with self. So like when you were speaking earlier about your daughter and like how you want to do better for her and you want her to see better, and you hit it on the head when you said, I need to walk differently, speak differently, act differently, be different, you know? So I always say, be about it, you know, don't just talk about it, like be about the change you want to see in the world, like Gandhi says, right? Or be the change you want to see in the world. And it starts at home. It really starts with working on yourself. And I know I'm biased, but like I keep saying, it's really about finding that path and that avenue for getting the support that you need that's actually pushing you to address the areas in your life that you're avoiding. So it doesn't matter. I've said this before. It doesn't matter if it's faith-based, if it's, you know, mental health-based, or a support group or a group of women that just understand the cycle and understand what you're going through. But it has to be people who are willing to push you in a way that is going to get you to address things that you're avoiding. So I'm going to go back to the three sisters. Three sisters could experience trauma exactly the same, can be traumatized exactly the same, but one might compartmentalize it and be like, I'm grown, I'm no longer there, I'm not affected. Or so she thinks. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then there's one that's like, you know what? I'm beautiful, I'm wonderful, I'm great, very positive thinking, but still avoidant. Right? Like, I'm just going to say good things and great things and everything's wonderful and everything is amazing and I don't have to deal with anymore. And my partner is great and my kids are great and my life is great. So who worries about that? And then the other one who maybe struggled a little more, maybe did end up in relationships that just validated those invalid thoughts of I'm not good enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not worthy, and then stayed in that cycle a little longer. As all of it doesn't mean that one's better than the other and that one's less traumatized than the other. Trauma is not to be equated by experiences or by like, so three sisters should not be said, well, they're all traumatized the same. Every person's trauma is different. We should not be comparing. This is not like, you know, to me, they're like oranges and apples because we're different human beings. So we process things differently. But trauma is also not held in a vacuum. And what I mean by that, right, is that you might have experienced domestic violence at home and then go out into the world and not engage in domestic violence. But you might just be a very angry and aggressive person to human beings and just be very verbally nasty.
Yeah.
That's your trauma speaking, because there's really no reason for you to be angry or nasty to the Dunkin' Donut lady that just gave you the wrong coffee. She gave you the car behind you's coffee. Like there's no reason for you to throw your coffee at her when all she did was make a simple mistake. But then there's something in you. I always tell my kids and I tell my clients, when people react to you in a way that doesn't make sense, it's not about you, it's about them. Right? So I feel like I have a couple things to tell you, but so that's that. But I'm going to go back to your first question. And it starts with self. It really starts with me being aware of what it is and how it is affecting me. I don't know if the audience has heard of secondary trauma. So secondary trauma is pretty much what generational trauma does to the people who didn't experience it. So I'll give you an example, right? So you experience sexual abuse. You talk about it all the time, right? Your daughter did not. However, that doesn't mean that she doesn't have emotions and feelings towards it or awareness towards it because of the fact that you probably drilled on her. Nobody helps you in the bathroom when she was little. Nobody helps to, change your diaper. Nobody touches you this way or no. You drilled it into her head so much that now she's like, okay, mom, like nothing. I always use that because I myself was not sexually abused as a child, but I've worked in the field for so long that then I would tell my kids all the time exactly what I just said to you. And then they got to an age that they said to me, Mom, we know, we understand.
Right.
But I had heard so many stories. I had secondary, I had vicarious trauma, not secondary, because I wasn't connected to those folks. However, I do have secondary trauma when it comes to rats and mice. My mom had a very ugly experience as a child, and her interactions to any time she sees a rat or a mouse on TV, not even in the house, is so dramatic that as I grew up, I created a fear for those animals. They never did nothing to me. There's rodents. They're not animals. They're rodents. They never did nothing. But even my friends know, like, don't even send me the rat emoji. Don't you dare, Ray. Like, don't you even. Because me asusta. You know what I mean? I have never had an experience. That's secondary trauma. See what I'm saying? So then change that interaction to physical abuse, sexual abuse, these things that are vivid in color, in action, in words, like it's just vivid. And then a child that experiences, or a child that doesn't experience this, but hears about it. Like a child that hears your dad or whoever used to beat me. Like Alina didn't experience that per se.
Yeah.
Right. But she knows about it.
Yeah.
So those are secondary trauma that are then it is generational trauma, but it doesn't mean that it's adding to that. It's just, we're breaking the cycle by then saying, and this is why I'm doing Love Shouldn't Hurt. Yeah. And this is why mommy's supporting this. And this is why I'm doing this, because I believe in that nobody should have to go through this. And I want to make sure you don't.
Awesome.
So.
Oh man, I swear that every time I'm on the screen with you, I feel like I'm like getting a plethora of knowledge, like things that I'm like, I gotta go back. Hold on, espérate, let me write down what she just said. Like that's how I feel every time I'm on the screen with you.
And it's so funny because I watch it the next day and I was like, oh, I should have said that, but where did that come from? Because we prep in the sense of like this is a topic, but like. And it's so funny because for the audience, Chrissy always thinks like, I have this in case we run out of things to say. And in my life, I'm like, like, have you not sat with me once? Like, I don't hablo demasiado. So we always are going to have, and this is my passion, y'all. Like, I've been doing this for 15 plus years. Like, I love therapy, and I know this always sounds weird, but I love working with trauma because I truly, truly believe that if, they always say children, but I'm going to say adults. If we all had one person in our life that loved us unconditional, that was there to listen to us, to guide us consistently, and was predictable in our life, we would be better people.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like we would be better people.
Yeah. Carmen Gonzalez, the comment just went up. She says, makes so much sense. My twins experienced trauma at the age of 13. One was hit by a car while they were on their way to the park. The other twin watched him get hit and refused to go outside. They both had to go to therapy. Yeah. Kind of like what you said earlier in the show about the people in the car accident in the back seat. I didn't get my legs hurt. You did, but I'll never want to get back in the car again. So it kind of sounds along those same lines.
And it's exactly like I said, perception, right? Because in your mind goes, that's possible, right? That's possible. You could be driving innocently down the road. Your person driving is a good driver, but there's someone else can come and hurt me. And I don't want what happened to her to happen to me. So I'm going to just stay my little butt home and don't go nowhere.
Absolutely. There was a comment by Ray Velez, a question, I'm sorry. It says, have you noticed unhealthy behavioral patterns on someone and how did you notice it?
So that is a very tricky question, Ray, but a very good question. So here's why. Unhealthy behavior patterns are not easily identified by people because they don't understand the difference between healthy and unhealthy. That's why earlier when I talked about behaviors and I was like I was like, let me not say that. Normal behaviors, like for the kids of your situation, like they might have thought like that was normal and hence healthy. Unless someone told them that's not how you treat people. That is not okay. That's not good. My favorite example to explain perception and understanding is, for example, if you raise your daughter, I'm going to use this cup, and you tell your daughter every day, hey, Alina, here's a fork. Every day she's going to say, Mommy, I want a fork. And you're going to give her fork on her water. She's going to go to school and she's going to ask the teacher for a fork, and the teacher's going to hand her an actual fork. And she's like, no, I want a fork.
Yeah.
Right. And the teacher's going to look at her like, what does she want? And she takes her to the kitchen and then she picks up a cup and she goes, that's a cup. And she goes, no, fork. Looking at her like, you crazy. right? Because she was taught that. So, and the reason I use non-violence examples is because I think it helps people understand, like, if I am taught this from a very young age, that this is acceptable, that's the word I want to use, not healthy versus unhealthy, acceptable, then I believe this is the way it goes. So it's my kind of healthy, but it's not healthy for the other person. It's my kind of healthy. So that's the first thing. It's understanding what's healthy versus unhealthy. I'll give you another example. Let's say I'm on 2 abusive relationships. I leave this relationship. This person used to beat me every day. And now this person doesn't beat me every day, but they call me out my name and degrade me in the most unacceptable way to anyone. Even to trash is unacceptable.
Right.
But guess what? At least he's not hitting me. Right? So to me, this is progress and this is healthier than that other one, because I don't have bruises. I don't have to make up excuses at work. I don't have to put a bunch of makeup to cover myself. So it's really about understanding what your boundaries and I guess acceptance level is. And then you can start to create what's healthy and unhealthy. And I think that as supporters and as alliance, that's our job, right? To kind of call a spade and be like, girl or dude, like, I know you're really into this person, but those behaviors just worry me. You don't have to say, I don't like them, don't do them, don't date them. Just kind of like, they worry me. It just seems like very, very similar to that person or those things you've said to me. I've used this. You said to me, you want to be in a relationship where you're respected, where you're loved, where you're viewed as nothing but the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know what I mean? Like, and none of those things that person is doing fit that.
Right.
It just doesn't fit that. So I just wanted to put that out there for you, girl or dude. Like, you decide what you do with that, but I'm gonna put that out there and then let them live it out. However, you have to be aware of what is the healthy and unhealthy for you. So for me, unhealthy is the moment I interact with a person and they make me feel by their words and their actions less than, it's my time to pull back. That's Amanda. I can just only speak for me. So if you come into therapy with me and you say to me all the things, I want to be respected, I want to be loved, I want to be whatever, my follow-up question is, let's talk about what feeling respected looks like. Let's talk about what feeling loved looks like. Let's talk about what's being, because that looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
That looks very different for everyone. So I hope I answered the question, but it is a complicated question because it means you have to be attuned as to what is acceptable and not acceptable in your world, and then define what is healthy and unhealthy based on that for you.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we are at the 42 mark, almost 43. And the last 15 minutes I usually dedicate to our closing thoughts and probably a final video, which is exactly what we're going to do. But before we get into our final thoughts, before we get into our final video and we close out the show, I think today was a super, super, super amazing day for a lot of people in the US. I can't even like get into the topic without like my eyes getting watery, because when I said it to you earlier today, I had no idea what people were talking about on social media because I was working all day. So when I finally logged into social media, Facebook at like 5 something, I saw not guilty. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Because I spent all day not, getting into it. And the weird thing is that the people that I saw not guilty were police officers that are friends of mine. And they wrote it. The one I remember, she's very close to me. I've known her since she was little. I feel like she's my little sister, but she's a cop. So I'm like, are you a cop? I mean, you're little. She writes on her status, not guilty. Today is an amazing day. And I think that speaks volumes for the fact that there are not a lot of bad cops in the world. Just like any other job or any other discipline or anything else, there's good people, there's bad people. But to see law enforcement as well celebrate today's not guilty was something. So let's talk about how we, I'm sorry, guilty. I've been sneezing all day. Today's guilty verdict. I said not guilty. Sorry, people. I have a lot of allergies and a lot of allergy medicine in me. Today's guilty verdict was something that had so many people coming together. Instead of us being in fear that they're going to be looting tonight and busting into places because so much negativity in the world and we can't come together, but to see law enforcement officials also saying, yes, guilty, today's a good day. was just astonishing for me. Once I realized what they were talking about, I was like, are you
Mhm.
kidding me? Finally, like today people feel like justice was served. I have hairs lifted as soon as I realized what it was about. What are your feelings today about today's verdict?
So, twofold. First, I want to say how interesting that your mind went to not guilty.
You're
It's
right.
because it's our norm.
It's our norm.
Our
Absolutely.
norm is that they are never held accountable for their actions, and that anyone who's Black and brown who's affected by violence is disregarded.
Absolutely.
That is generational trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so used to saying he got off. He's a cop. They get
Correct.
off. That's
We're
what we're
expecting it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I got chats where people were like, I don't know what this afternoon's going to look like. I don't know what's going to happen this afternoon. And I was like you, I'm like into my work. I didn't find out till after I got to work, like what everybody was kind of like talking about. But honestly, I just feel like it's about time that we feel heard
Yeah,
and we feel seen and not as violent people.
that's right.
Right? That I think someone posted that it sucks when our color is already like we are violent because of the color of our skin. We are portrayed or seen as violent because of the color of our skin. And it's about time that someone is held accountable. But however, I also read somewhere that someone said we need to realize that they felt like they had to have someone take the fall because if not, there'll be more violence in the world. And I love that you just said, tonight, there won't be looting or whatever. I really hope that the world today celebrates this.
Yeah.
And that they really come together and we come together as a community. And yes, if you want to stand together and march together, that's great. But remember that let's make sure that he didn't lose his life for no reason. I mean, he shouldn't have lost his life. Let's be real. They shouldn't have happened. But today there was a little bit of accountability. I think we'll see how this all ends, but because there's still sentencing and all that. I'm trying to be hopeful, but I'm glad that there was accountability held today.
Absolutely. Let's put that comment back up from Carmen Gonzalez. I want it to just stay there as we're talking about this. She said today marks the beginning of change and positivity for all. And that's absolutely the truth, because I think that, like you said, we're so accustomed to these things happening and then hearing not guilty, they just got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just all of our mentality and where it's been. Like and this is a daily basis because when I'm home, we talk about it all the time. Like, it's a shame that it's so much in our media. It's a shame, social media and the news and everything. It's terrible that it's an everyday thing, is what I'm trying to say. Like, not just Philly, not just New York, not just DC, South Carolina, every day. If you turn on the news or if you look it up, somebody is getting shot by law enforcement. And I am in no way condemning the law enforcement because I have so many friends and family that are amazing cops, good cops. But it's a shame that this is what we're used to, and we'll sit and have conversations like I've had in my home that it's like, it don't matter, they're going to get away with it anyway. Or comments made like, well, they do it because they know they're going to get away with it. And it's a shame. And I think today shows that it's about damn time. Like, no, if I went out today and I did that same act of violence, I would have been arrested on spot and I would have already had my trial and been found guilty. But the fact that others can do that and just, it's swept under the rug and there was an excuse for it and that was it, is terrible. So I think exactly today is a day that starts positivity for all of us. And like you said, I hope that people celebrate it and not make it something nasty. That if, like you said, if they want to walk together peacefully, happily, and celebrating, that finally we can say, listen, even if they were the fall guy, like you said, somebody had to go down so that they showed that they spoke about it. At least someone today was charged for something that should have never, ever happened. That happens too many times in our world.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
So when they protest, right? When you hear protests or you watch protests, the chant is usually right, no justice, no peace. So I'm not saying that the family feels like this is justice, but this is the beginning of justice. So then we're getting some justice. So I really, really hope that there is peace, because I think peace is going to bring us more of a sense of stability and a sense of community than going out and destroying things. And especially when we as a community already feel destroyed, I think it's just time for us to rebuild.
Yeah, most definitely for all of us. So, our shows never talk about things like this. We don't really get into political, but today was a really, really, really good day. So you can put that picture up, Bray, so that we can remind folks why today is such a great day for everyone. We hope that in some way, shape, or form, he is now resting in peace, even though this is such a terrible, terrible time for our country. I hope today brings a lot of us peace. Miss Amanda, I will give you the floor first. I will go back to the green room. You can bring us your final thoughts today on generational trauma and breaking the cycle.
Well, I always want to thank you guys for tuning in, for listening to me, and also trusting me in what I am saying to you. I want you to always remember that every person's situation is different. Everyone's life experience is different. That's why I try to sit here and give you guys a perspective that sometimes it's outside of the trauma field, because it can help you kind of like connect the dots. But I'm going to say this much. We are all like a puzzle. This is my favorite other analogy. We are all like a puzzle, right? And our life experiences help mold, grow, expand, or destroy our puzzle. We have to get to a point in our life that we decide what parts of our next future steps. We can't change the past, but we can change today and tomorrow. What about it is going to help our puzzle grow and make us stronger, make us feel more fulfilled, make us feel more at peace, and by no means necessary allow someone to come in and destroy that. Let it be you who owns your power. Let it be you who owns your future. Let it be you who decides where you go, how you go, and in what space and time you go in, if that makes any sense. Generational trauma is part of us, but it doesn't have to be who we are moving forward. And it definitely doesn't have to be who our children are for those of us who are parents. So walk in your own peace, but create that peace. Only you can do that. So I say that, and thank you, like always, for having me.
I feel like I'm watching The Karate Kid. Daniel-san.
It's like I always think of the emoji, but I can't, I don't know how to do it.
Great up. Well, thank you. I will give my thought, and you will be back on screen with us tonight. So as always, I want to thank our audience for being here, bearing with me tonight, folks, because my allergies have tore me up. So excuse the red face and not being as energetic as I normally do. I'm just not feeling so great today. But I hope that you guys enjoyed tonight's topic. I hope that if you know someone who was unable to watch, that you share the video with them. I think generational trauma is super important for us to learn about, because so many of us have dealt with so many terrible, terrible things in our past and have lived through so much trauma that we continue to push on and pass on to those people who are in our lives, and like our children and the people we come into contact with. And sometimes we do it unknowingly. We just do it and it just happens. And I think that being able to be conscious of what we've dealt with and being able to, as Amanda said, break those cycles and stopping it with us first. If you are a parent, putting yourself at the utmost in front of your children, never speaking negatively about yourself, never talking about your abuse, never talking about anything that would affect them in a negative way, because then they move on to do the same with the way they are once they're older, and how they react to things and who they share their wisdom with, or their knowledge, or anything that they've dealt with that has been traumatic or terrible. There's a lot of positive things that we can pass on to our children, a lot of positive things that we can pass on to those that are around us as we move on in our lives. But oftentimes what sticks the most is the negative. So we need to break those cycles. We need to remember that there are people watching. There are people who are listening and who are embracing. Thank you guys always for being here with us, for sharing in today. Hallelujah, and praise God for today and getting that guilty verdict. I know I said not guilty earlier, but I'm under the influence of allergy medicine. But I'm happy that today is a great day and that justice was served. And I know that everyone that is watching feels the same way today. Thank you for sharing in our evening with us. We're going to bring Amanda back. I have one more video to take us out tonight. The video is just a constant reminder to women, to men, to anyone watching, that it is just a bad day and not a bad life. You are an amazing person. You are phenomenal and you are wonderful. Amanda, thank you for joining me as always. Mujer
My
Poderosa.
pleasure.
You are awesome.
Gracias.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Let's take us out on that last video. Have a good night, all.
I made this video especially for you because I know you're going through it. I know you feel down and out. I know you feel less than. I know you don't feel beautiful. But this is your friendly reminder. Just in case your mama didn't tell you. Just in case your daddy didn't tell you. Just in case your auntie, your uncle, your man, your girl didn't tell you. You, my friend, are amazing. You're beautiful on the inside and out. You just have to take a moment. You just have to self-assess. You just have to reevaluate. You just have to understand. You were put here for a reason. You are imperfectly perfect. You are amazing. You are phenomenal. You have to believe that in your heart of hearts. I know, I get it. You had a few ugly moments. We all have a few ugly moments in life. But never let the ugly moments define who you are. I want you to take your ugly moments and turn them into a beautiful resurrection. I want you to take your ugly moments and turn them into a beautiful story of triumph and glory. Because I'm going to tell you what you're not. You are not the bad days. You are not just sad days. You are not depression. You are not the drugs. You are not whatever the doubters, the haters, and the naysayers want you to be. You are amazing. And I need you to own that. So never let the haters, never let the doubters, never let the demons, the devils embezzle the greatness that makes you you. Give yourself a standing ovation because you deserve it. Life will put you to the test, but you have everything inside to pass that test with flying colors. And once you pass that test, you have a testimony that you can share with the world. People want to know how you overcame what you went through, because that's what makes the greatness of you. You are amazing. You are phenomenal. You are love. You are worthy. In spite of all your flaws, never, ever, ever forget, not for one moment, not for 1 second, how truly amazing you are. Whenever you feel low, whenever you feel down in the dumps, I want you to find this video. I want you to find this video and play this video. And then I want you to go stand in the mirror. And I want you to remind yourself, say this out loud. I am enough. I am worthy. I am somebody. I am meant to be here. I deserve to be here. I am worthy because I am an amazing individual. Pump yourself up. Sometimes you got to be your own personal cheerleader, because people will try to tear you down. Misery loves company. So I want you to look them dead in the eye and say, listen to me. Your misery will have absolutely none of my company, because I'm not buying what you're selling. I've been buying it for way too long. And you're hurt and you want me to be hurt. You're down, so you want me to be down. I ain't got no time to stay down. I got stuff to do. I'm trying to stay up. I understand that I am phenomenal. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, I am amazing. So therefore, I have absolutely no time for your shenanigans. I have no time for your ignorance, because I'm trying to win. And once I get you out of my picture, I can finally climb over the hump and make each and every day of my life a Wednesday. Once again, if no one has ever told you, you are amazing. This is a great day to win. Let's go.